Hey everyone, welcome back to the Strength for Generations podcast. I'm your host, Krista Baker. Today we are diving into something that will change how you think and feel about anemia and iron. If you've ever been told you have low iron, or if you've had iron infusions, or if you've taken iron supplements that make you feel worse, well, this one's for you, my friends. What if I told you what we call anemia isn't actually an iron deficiency at all? What if the real problem is that your body can't properly distribute and utilize the iron that you already have? And what if there's a solution that doesn't involve pumping more iron into your system that makes you feel terrible anyways? Well, today I'm sharing a conversation with a metabolic expert who's going to blow your mind on what's really happening in your body. And I'm going to tell you exactly where to go to get the help that you need. So grab your notebook, because this one you're going to want to take notes on. Now, before we jump into this really important information, I want you to know that we have some resources that we put together for you. So go to bakerfamilyfitness.com/glucoferrin. Glucoferrin is spelled Glucoferrin. When you get there, you're going to see a form that will help us to understand what you're dealing with and how we can best support you. This is how we connect with you and get the right information and resources for your specific situation. So the information you're about to hear is going to make a lot of sense, and you're probably going to have questions or you're going to want to take action on it. So the form is your starting point. So when you have a chance, head on over to bakerfamilyfitness.com/glucoferrin and make sure you fill out that form. There's also a place that you can request to speak to one of the doctors that we've interviewed quite a few times now. Now, let's dive into what's really happening with iron in your body. I cannot tell you how many women I've talked to who've been told they have low iron. Like some men, but it's mostly women. And we've been told that, well, you get your cycles, your periods, so you lose a lot of iron, so you need to just take more iron. And they've been prescribed iron supplements, but those make them constipated and nauseous. Or they've sat in chairs for hours getting iron infusions. They've tried every iron supplement on the market. I know, I was one of them. And yet I still felt exhausted. Do you feel exhausted? Do you still feel weak? Still have the symptoms that you started with, even though you've done all that work? Does that sound familiar to you? So today I'm sharing the insights from a conversation with metabolic expert Piotr Slowinski, who has completely revolutionized my understanding of iron and health. If you haven't heard from Dr. Slowinski before, let me catch you up on his previous appearances. We did episode 22, which was kind of a deep dive 101 into metabolic health. Now that one was a little bit longer, but that's the episode that really launched my journey into understanding how our bodies actually work at the cellular level. Then we did episode 25, where he talked about his patent and the science behind his research and product, glucoferrin. Episode 28, we dove into women's health, including pregnancy, perimenopause, menopause, and our children's health crisis. Episode 31, we talked about diabetes, myocarditis, and insulin resistance. Episode 34, we explored the root cause of gut problems. And episode 37, we dove into anxiety, depression, and mental health. Each of these conversations have built on the last, giving us a complete picture of how everything in our body is connected. And today's topic, iron dysregulation, ties into all of it. What we call anemia isn't actually iron deficiency at all. It's iron dysregulation. Your body has plenty of iron. The problem is that iron is sitting in the wrong places, accumulating in your liver, your organs, creating what is called iron overload. Meanwhile, the iron isn't getting to where it needs to go. So you test as anemic, but you actually have too much iron, not too little. And I know that, guys, that sounds like crazy, because every time I tell somebody that's like, nope, my iron's low, and they get really defensive. And maybe I would have too before, but now that I've been able to experience what it feels like to not feel like that, I'm going to keep talking about this. Here's what Piotr will help us understand. The reason you're still tired after taking iron supplements isn't because you need more iron. It's because your body can't use the iron that's already in there. So I want you to think about it this way. You could have a garage full of tools, but if you don't have the right key to unlock the toolbox, those tools are useless. That's what's happening with iron in your body. You have the iron, you just don't have the right key to unlock it and put it to work. And he teaches that there's specific protein in your body that you need to transport the iron where it needs to go. This isn't about being perfect with your diet. This is about understanding what your body actually needs to function properly. When doctors see low iron on your labs, they do what they're trained to do, give you more iron. But that's like trying to fill up a car with a broken fuel line. You can keep pouring gas in, but it's not going to get to where it needs to go. And meanwhile, that gas is spilling everywhere, creating a mess. That's why iron supplements make you feel worse. That's why iron infusions don't solve the problem long term. You're adding more of something your body can't properly use. But when you listen to what Piotr talks about, you'll see why his approach works when everything else has failed. This is why women who've struggled with anemia for years finally start feeling strong and energized. I'm one of them right here, because I'm not just adding more into a broken system, I'm actually fixing the system itself. Friends, I can't overstate how important this is. Iron dysregulation doesn't just make you feel tired, it affects everything: your energy, your mood, your ability to think clearly, your capacity to show up for your family the way you want to, your ability to serve God with the strength and vitality He intended. When your body can't properly use iron, you're operating at a fraction of your potential. And you don't have to live that way. I have watched women go from dragging themselves through their days to genuinely feeling energized, not needing naps anymore, feeling like their body is just capable and strong. And that's what his work helps provide. And so don't forget, I want you guys to go fill out the form. If you have any questions at all, someone from our team will reach out. I want you guys to start feeling better. I know God gave you a body that He really wants you to take care of, but that requires wisdom and knowledge and trusting something that might be a little bit different. Because honestly, if you look around, what the world is doing, it's not helping us get better. So we are called to seek truth, and we are called to be wise stewards. So I want you guys to really think about that as you listen and hear from Piotr today. And if you guys need anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Now let's dive in. Welcome to Strength for Generations, the go-to podcast for Christian families who want to build strength, restore energy, and deepen connection with God at the center. I'm Krista Baker, Christian health coach, wife, mom, and co-founder of Baker Family Fitness. I'm here to help you honor God with your health and bring peace back to the process, to simplify what it means to build strength in your body, renew your mind, and care for your spirit, all without losing precious time with your family. So grab your coffee and your ribeye, and let's do this His way. Today we are going to talk about anemia and iron. So I know it's kind of a loaded question, but talk to us. Let us know about anemia.
Okay, so one of the important part is through all my research and many years of trying to understand the concept of human health and metabolism was all life we all heard, even as a professional, medical professional, anemia is iron deficiency. Anemia is iron deficiency. Actually, it's not. If you look at any type of terminology and description of definition of anemia, it actually is not iron deficiency. It is a deficiency of utilization of iron, regulation of iron, absorption, or distribution. Whichever term you choose, it's correct. I choose to use term dysregulation. The reason is, as we're going to go a little bit further, it happens in so many different aspects. Okay. When people think about anemia, they always think about one thing: level of iron. There is so many different markers, and new scientific approach right now leads to those markers to start to understand anemia as actually a lot more complex metabolic problem with iron versus just deficiency. And also we've seen that the deficiency create an improvement with anemia, and a lot of times they create problems because people, when they don't absorb or regulate iron by taking iron, they create iron overload. And iron overload becomes a really serious problem for every human being. So going back to it is distribution and dysregulation where iron supposed to be delivered and how it's supposed to be delivered. Now, glucophage plays the big role. In order to regulate iron, human body has to have a 708 amino acids called sulfur bonded. Sulfur is basically a glue of amino acids, simplifying, of course, to create a full sequence of protein. Those proteins have an ability and are specially designed in our body and our mother body to bind iron. That's why it's referred iron binding glycoprotein. So when you start to have this protein, you start to distribute iron to the bone marrow and to liver to the storage places called ferritin. These are the amino acid cells which stores. Now, anemia can actually be established in certain body parts, but this doesn't mean it's anemia of whole body. It's basically localized anemia, which is caused by somewhere in the body multiple iron overload areas. The first one is always a liver. So liver iron overload will actually cause iron deficiency in certain organs, but in general in the body, in distribution regulation, it is iron overload and accumulation would happen versus iron deficiency. Secondarily, basically today in the world, to become iron deficient, it's basically impossible. The reason iron is everything, including it's added as food. So it's basically in every single grain, every single food, it's iron fortified. So we have iron from the breakfast to every meal full of iron. We have this also in vegetables, iron. We have in meats. Okay? So we're getting loaded with iron every single day. So technically, you cannot be iron deficient. You just start to accumulate iron because the body loses ability to properly distribute and delegate iron with red blood cells hemoglobin to be formed, the bone marrow hemoglobin to deliver to rest of the. That's actually the name of it's an iron overload and dysregulation of iron distribution, not deficiency.
This makes me think about women, obviously, a lot of people that I know that would let iron infusions. So can you talk
Yes.
a bit about that? I'm trying to like a simple way to just say, so I'm not actually low in iron. The test is saying that it's just distributed. It's in other organs instead. It's just hanging out
Yes.
somewhere else, right? And I need to
Yep.
find a way to properly utilize that iron.
Yes, correct.
So then I see women are sitting in these chairs and getting multiple infusions over and over. So what's really happening to the body when they do that?
Okay, so the first thing is the understanding of iron deficiency was done 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And now many scientists, professionals come to the conclusion that we have to look on iron differently. So iron is basically checked on iron level or hemoglobin, which is completely incorrect. So when hemoglobin going to have showing and deficiency, but yet when you check levels like, and I give you the markers, for instance, ferritin, which is the storage cell for iron, transferrin, which is the transport protein for iron, total iron binding capacity, which is the measurement unit, how we form and how well we form red blood cells. And then we check iron levels and concentration of percentage of iron. Then a skillful professional, we can establish actually where the dysregulation happens. So by looking on all those markers, you can see how actually high deficiency is in the iron distribution, not actually being in the body. Second thing, it's very important to remember that iron needs to be delivered to the bone marrow and to liver. Bone marrow is the one which produces 80% of bone marrow. It's a red bone marrow and produces red blood cells. That's what the red blood cells has to have iron to be delivered. The first thing when iron is delivered, there has to be present iron binding protein. That protein does not exist anywhere, just in mammals. Mother's milks the most abundantly, and then also in meats of all mammalian species. Without that protein, we start to have a dysfunction of the binding process, which is the creating of red blood cells. Red blood cells also require, besides these amino acids, iron binding amino acids, okay? It requires also iron, which is two types of iron. There's a heme iron and non-heme iron. Heme iron comes only from mammalian animal source. It is not available in vegetables at all, okay? There is in some fish, certain type of fish. So when we don't have a heme iron, heme means hemoglobin, which means it's very easy to bind that iron to create hemoglobin and red blood cells and then molecules of hemoglobin. The second iron from vegetable source and grain source or fortified foods, it's called non, which means there is no part, is a particle element in human body which naturally binds with iron. Heme iron binds with what we call this F plus 2, ferrous iron. And ferrous iron becomes heme iron, and it's very easy to create red blood cells in hemoglobin. That iron is F plus 2 and it's called ferrous because this is the natural way that our body can actually bind with oxygen, which comes also as a O plus 2. So they have an affinity to bind together to create perfect delivery of oxygen and then glycogen in the body. The non-heme iron does not have what they call pyloric ring, which it means does not come in F2 form of iron. It will create non-heme, which is F plus 3. Our body cannot utilize F plus 3 because there's a ferric iron. That ferric iron needs to be broken down to F2. And that's where the glycoprotein, like glucoferrin, comes important because the second function of mother's milk, besides binding, is sequestering part. Sequestering part is based on dividing the F3 to F2 and F1 to utilize it. So that it has to be broken down. In the non-presence of that amino acid, sulfur bonded binding protein, the process of binding iron from non-heme, it's extremely difficult and it's have a very difficult time to bind with oxygen. And that's what people who have very low protein, proper, animal source protein or dairy product, which are, from mother's milk, they have a severe problem to bind and create red blood cells and hemoglobin. And that's what they become very, very soon what they call anemic. And they think they iron deficient. They're not, because the F3 iron, if it's not broken or if it's broken down, the molecule left over, which is the ion of iron, becomes what we call free floating iron. The free floating iron, it goes in our body and it start to get accumulate first in our liver and the rest of the organs and the rest of the systems in the body, creating severe iron overload, which is actually anemic. but the iron is overloading the system. The second part is after iron overload, we go into the stage called hemochromatosis. Hemochromatosis is the name coming from hem, blood, chroma, Greek words from color. Our blood becomes so thick and brownish from iron substance floating in the bloodstream. So then it's recognized as a hemochromatosis, bronze diabetes type 2, because of the brown color of the blood. The third stage of it, it's called ferroptosis. Ferroptosis is severe accumulation of the free-floating iron in the body, which causes buildup of oxidative stress damage and iron molecules building up, basically corrosion of our cellular level, and start to suffocate it and block even further delivery of iron and hemoglobin with oxygen and glycogen to the cells in the very further body parts like brain or organs, creating very, very difficult, sustainable environment for the cells to be alive and to replicate. Well, oxidative stress is the main reason of every metabolic abnormality and causes to multiple cascade of the health problem. Now, ferroptosis definition was done for the first time in 2012 in United States as official medical terminology as a accelerated cellular death due to iron overload accumulation on the cellular level.
I'm so grateful that you were able to break that down because I had some aha moments in there myself, especially being told that I have low iron my entire life. So I appreciate you being here. Thanks again. Thanks for tuning in to Strength for Generations. If this podcast encouraged you, it would be a blessing if you took a quick minute to leave a 5-star review. It helps more families hear this message and find hope for their health and faith journey. It lights me up to know this podcast is helping you. And if you feel led to share this episode, text it to a friend, post it to your stories, or send it to someone on your heart. God might use it to encourage someone who really needs it today. And don't forget to eat steaks, lift weights, love Jesus, and keep doing it His way.